Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and we are taking a look today at a very highly requested video, as we're starting a little bit of a series. We're taking a look at the 2022 and 2023 NHL Draft classes. We're going to be looking at the top 10 prospects as of the end of August, early September. So we'll be going into that right now. So we're starting off with the 2022 NHL Draft, which is being written as the Shane Wright Draft. Now, there will be some guys, and we'll get into that. There are some guys that could be competition there for Shane Wright at that number one spot in next year's draft. And I just want to throw a caveat. Don't, next summer, let's say June of 2022, and don't start coming in a week before the draft and saying, Shane Wright's not going first, it's Brad Lambert or Ludwig Persson or whoever it is. I just want to say, as of right now, that is what we're hearing. So, with that out of the way, let's take a look at some of the top draft picks in the 2022 draft class. So, right now we're going to start off, like I said, we're going to go from 10 all the way down to number 1. And for the first 10, or for the first 7, we aren't going to go into too much detail. We're just going to look at the player, where they're from, how old they are, and what position they are. That's pretty much it. And then for the top 3, I actually have a little bit of a scouting report. It was very hard to find information on these other guys. I tried looking around. It is a little difficult. So I'll give you a brief on those top 3 guys. But looking at the first 7, at number 10, we got Patrick Gabriel. Now, Patrick Gabriel, let's take a look. Patrick Gabriel is Slovakian. He's one of the younger players in this draft class. He's playing at Salpa under 20 this season. He's a forward, so there you go. This is a very interesting name. We got Ivan Miroshnichenko. There's no way I'm going to be Miroshnichenko. Ivan Miroshnichenko. Obviously, he's Russian. So you got the Russian blood there. He's playing with Omsk of the KHL. So keep an eye on him at number 9. At number 8, we have Rutger McGroarty. He is an American, and he is already 18 years old. So he's one of the older players in this draft class, and he is also a forward. I just want to throw Ivan is a forward, and so is Rutger. So a lot of forwards at the top of this draft. We have our first defenseman that we're looking at here. Again, a younger defenseman. We have Slovakian defenseman Simon Nemec. He is playing with HK Nitra, and he is a defenseman. So seeing a little bit of a different look there. And, the overall landscape, you do have to look at that. And I do want to mention, they do have 2 Slovakians already that we mentioned in the top 10. And we're going to continue with that theme at number 7. We have Patrick Sokolai. Patrick Sokolai is a forward, and he is also Slovakian. So we have 3 Slovaks here in the top 10, and that is not it either, and we'll get to that. So now at number 5, Jack Hughes. Yes, the American Jack Hughes. Not the one that's playing for the Devils, but there is another Jack Hughes, and he's projected to go in the top 5 for the 2022 NHL Draft. So I thought that was interesting. Again, another forward. So we've only seen one defenseman here, though. The Slovakian defenseman. So far in the top 10, the first 5, there's only one defenseman here. And actually, he's the only defenseman in the entire top 10 for this draft class. So now looking at number 4, you got Juraj Slavkovsky. He is another Slovakian. So make that 4 Slovaks in the top 10 here for the 2022 draft. So we'll see how that works out. He's a forward, and he is one of the younger guys in that top 10. He is 17 years old. Continuing along, we're going to take a look at Matthew Savoie, who is, of course, Canadian from the Quebec. He's playing with Dubec of the Fighting Saints. So he is one of the younger players. He's still very young. And we actually have a little bit of a scouting report on Matt Savoie. Savoie, looking at his areas of strength. He has good work ethic, which is important. You can't teach that. He's got a good hockey sense. Again, another thing you really can't teach. Physical strength. Again, you can't teach any of those intangible assets. He is just good in those areas. That's a good base to build around. I guess strength, you got to go to the gym, right? But other than that, pretty much all things you can't teach. And then looking at his areas of weakness, his shooting consistency, which can be fixed. That's definitely something that is trainable. But this is one that's not. His height. He does have an area of weakness, which is his height. And I don't necessarily think in today's NHL that is a weakness. You look at a lot of guys around the league, they just have to adapt. And we're seeing this right now with, I see some similarities with Morgan Frost of the Philadelphia Flyers. He was a very, highly sought after prospect playing in the WHL, and he was supposed to be this really good player, but he had to pack on the size. And would his game translate to the NHL? I think that's something that you're seeing with Matt Savoie. Can his game in the Quebec leagues translate to the NHL at a smaller frame? And that is really the big question with Savoie. But he has the skill, he has great work ethic, he has the intangibles of a player that can become. He has the framework. It's just, can he put it together and maybe utilize his weaknesses and turn them into, good things about him? Is he a really good skater? Is he really fast? Those are the things you could work around with your height. And now we're going to move into the top two. And this is really where the argument lies. It's Brad Lambert at number 2. He's a center, but he also plays right wing. And he is the only Finnish player in the top 10 for this draft class. So, according to a couple of insiders, a dynamic playmaker with a... Oh, no. That's Shane Wright. We'll get to him in a minute. Brad Lambert. He's a dynamic offensive threat, combining high-end skating with excellent handling and dual threat capabilities. He's also a dynamic offensive player with great speed, very good offensive instincts, dangerous when given time and space with the puck. That was back in 2019. And also in 2019, he can skate and stick handle so well that he can find his way around older opponents with regularity. And that's something that we just talked about with Matt Savoie. So you're seeing the same thing here kind of with Brad Lambert. Maybe he's not the tallest guy, and that is something, and it doesn't have the biggest frame, but he's able to utilize that to create space and find space around those guys, and that's kind of his ability. And like Morgan Frost, does his game translate to the NHL? But I think Brad Lambert, I think there's more certainty with him in that regard. And then with the first overall pick, the Shane Wright draft. He's the centerman playing right now in the OHL with the Kingston Frontenacs. He is 20. He's born in 2004. So we'll see how things work out for him. But Shane Wright is a dynamic playmaker with a sniper's release. There is virtually no easy to stop him. I think there's a bit of a translation issue there. There is no easy way to stop him. I think that's what they meant to say. But Shane Wright, this is supposedly the top of the heap in the draft class. And Shane Wright could really fit in well with a team like the Arizona Coyotes. That's why I have the Coyotes jersey on. He may be the last breath of air for the Coyotes if they're able to keep an arena there for another year or two at maybe I think it's the University of Arizona they're looking at, or something like that. They may end up there for a year or two. Shane Wright could be that difference maker that if the Coyotes get the first overall pick, Shane Wright would be that guy. And I really like Shane Wright. I think there's a lot of things we've been hearing about him really since he was like 14 or 15 years old. I've heard the name Shane Wright for at least 2 or 3 years now. The question is, can he stay at the top of the heap? Because I remember, like last year, Arttu Räty was supposed to be the first overall pick. Everybody was talking very glowingly about him just like 6 or 7 months ago at the 2020 draft. And within that time, he fell to the second round, the middle of the second round. So we'll see what happens. I think Shane Wright has a little bit more capability than the first overall pick here in 2020. In the 2021 NHL Draft in Owen Power. Not that Owen Power isn't a good player, but I think Shane Wright has more, recognizability, especially in the OHL. I think he's a guy that teams can rely on as your cornerstone first-line center, and Shane Wright will be able to do that. And I think there's going to be some competition throughout the season between Shane Wright and Brad Lambert. I think they're very similar players, both dynamic offensive threats. I think Brad Lambert he has more scoring capability than Shane Wright. I think Shane Wright is more of a passing playmaker center. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think of this draft class, and who do you think will go first overall in next year's draft at the 2022 NHL Draft? Will it be the Finnish forward Brad Lambert, or will it be the Canadian Shane Wright? Let me know down below. And if you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL and more videos just like this one, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and an even bigger subscribe down below. Guys, make sure to check out in my description at my Streamlabs shop online. We are now selling Goal Line Hockey merch, so if you're interested in that, make sure to check that out down below. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.